Muslims to going to the movies. Is that, sometimes there's in American culture, some religious traditions, very conservative Baptists kind of frown on their kids going to movies and seeing Western films. You're raising some teenagers.
Again, it is the interpretation of all of the religion. Some people will interpret all the way to the right, to the left. I like to be in the middle. Okay. If a movie, a good movie, educational movie, something is not, indecent, there is nothing wrong with it. Something, very bad, a lot of nudity, vulgar, bad language, I wouldn't recommend it to nobody. Even for my fellow American Christian or Jews.
Understood.
Islam is promote decency, modesty. You don't want to go to the movie and listen to nothing but vulgar talk and bad talk, because that's not, in any religion is condoned.
Yes.
So going to the movie, there is nothing wrong with going to the movie, as long as you're going to a movie to watch something respectful, decent, educational, something you can benefit from. Because movies I consider them as like a school. You learn from.
Sure. And what about television? Do Muslims tend to keep televisions in their household?
It is the same as movies.
Okay.
So it could go either way.
Understood. And what about one's relationship to books? In other words, do Muslims who are committed to Islam feel that they have freedom to read any books that are in the library generally in terms of intellectual culture? Could you read? There is
no restriction on which books you read except the one indecent.
Okay.
Like pornography books or anything that is not beneficial. The Prophet, he used to make prayer, says, I seek refuge to Allah from a knowledge that has no benefit.
Yes.
So if you read something that is not beneficial, you're wasting your time. And time is very important. Because when you die, Allah is going to ask you for, what did you do with your time? What did you do with the money that you earned? How did you earn it? And how did you spend it? It's going to ask you about your youth. How did you spend it? Did you spend it in chasing girls and doing bad things, doing drugs, doing alcohol? Or you did it in obeying your parents, learning how to be a good citizen, how to be a good person, helping the poor, the needy? All of these things will be something that you have to think about.
And so let's, not to put you on the spot with your kids, just the fact that you've mentioned that you have teenagers. If one of them brought home a book by, say, Richard Dawkins, do you know who Richard Dawkins is? Okay. Richard Dawkins is a biologist at Oxford, and he is a well-known atheist. If your son brought home, or one of your children brought home, a book by him and you saw him reading it, would that be a concern to you? Would you prohibit it from being read by a child, or is this something where you encourage intellectual engagement with people who believe things different from you?
I taught them from when they're young, what is good and what is bad. Okay, if they think that book is bad, they're not going to read it. Actually, my second son, he had a class during his senior year in high school, Bible as a literature. And he said, can I take that class, Dad? I said, no problem. Take it. He enjoyed it. I know the teacher there, and I start, getting to know the teacher. She's a nice lady, and there is nothing wrong with learning about different things, different culture. Once you have the faith in you and you are strong, it doesn't matter what you read, because what he reads probably makes him laugh about this person, or make him think this person is crazy, or make him think this person doesn't have a brain.
Okay.
So this is a learning experience for him. It's not good for you to close, oh, you can't really read this, or you can't do this. Now these children, once you are raising them in the right way, it doesn't matter. You can throw them in the middle of the ocean, they still can swim back.
Understood. Okay. And in terms of intellectual culture, you know, I teach at a college, and I will get students who might come into my course who might be wearing the hijab.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, could you talk to us about why do women wear a hijab?
Mm-hmm.
And from my understanding, a hijab is just a covering over the head.
Covering of the head and covering all of their, body up to the arm, up to the hands, and all the way to their, to the feet.
So when I see a young Muslim person coming to class wearing the hijab is not just the scarf over the head. It's also is it a piece of clothing that goes to the
It's like the sleeve.
to the wrist.
The sleeve should be up to the arm, to the hand.
I see.
And up to the feet.
Mm-hmm. And what is the rationale for the hijab?
The rationale is the way that the Prophet, and it's also in the Quran, that orders a woman to be dressing in modesty. And Islam look at the woman as a precious, regards the woman as a very, very precious human being, and is not open for public. Her body is a sacred, and is only allowed by the husband and the person who takes her as a woman, as a wife. Is not for everybody in the market to see her cleavage, to see her legs, to see things that she's not supposed to show.
Fair enough. And in terms of Muslim and Christian relationships in a community, have you noticed that is there an effort on the part of Muslims and Christians to dialogue? In other words, I'm kind of coming at this as an agnostic who just said, well, I think this would be a good thing to start dialogue. And what sort of dialogue do you perceive happening between Christians and Muslims within, say, northern Los Angeles County?
We have actually excellent relationship with a lot of different groups. I myself belong with this mosque. Belongs to the Antelope Valley Interfaith Council, and we had about a year ago, and last April 15, I believe, April 13. Was it April 19? I'm sorry, because we made it after the election. I remember, because we did not want to be part of the election. We made it April 19. We had a forum at the Antelope Valley College. It was very successful. It was directly designed for non-Muslim to ask any questions. It was a total success.
Good, good.
So we're going to continue to do these kind of events, and through the Antelope Valley Interfaith Council and a group of our friends from Jews and Christian and different denominations, we will continue to do that so we can educate the public and the non-Muslims.
Now, what is the difference between, Kamal, the Quran and the Hadith? Could you maybe make a distinction between those two for a non-Muslim?
The Quran is the word of Allah. The Hadith is the word of, some of it is the word of Allah said by the Prophet, and some of it just the word of the Prophet. Like, for example, the Hadith Qudusi, meaning this narration came to the Prophet through Jibreel and is said to him word by word from Allah. The Prophet repeated that to his companion word by word as it came from Allah. But sometimes he was saying things in his own, and that's also part of the Hadith.
So when you say Jibreel, you're referring to the angel Gabriel?
Gabriel.
Okay.
Peace be upon him too.
Understood. With the angel Gabriel, you believe that that the Quran was dictated to Muhammad through his ear, is that right? And then he spoke it, and then some of his friends.
I'm going to give you a very intellectual analogy.
Okay.
Okay. A lot of people, they said, how can the Prophet memorize all of these? And he was a layman.
Yes.
So he did not know how to write or read. But do you think for Allah, who created all of this universe, is it too hard for Allah to have somebody memorize this by having Gabriel hold Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and basically download the Quran from his chest to his chest. It's like
kind of download it.
Yeah, it's like taking Bluetooth, and you can download all the numbers to your telephone from it. How hard it is! If the human being can do it, you think it's hard for Allah to do that?
So from the heart of Gabriel to the heart of of Muhammad.
Yes.
So speak to me.
But it was not done at one time. It was done in stages and according to occasions during the 23 years of the Prophet's life.
And so speak to me about the heart of Islam. You said that Gabriel spoke to Muhammad's heart. What do you see as the heart of Islam? Is it, because a lot of non-Muslim Americans think of Islam and they don't think of love first. What role does love play in Islam?
Love is everything.
Okay.
You have to love yourself first. And when you say love yourself, you love yourself the way you love Allah and the Prophet. How do you do that? By following the teachings, by raising your children the right way, by loving your community, loving your neighbor, loving everybody around you, by not being, it's very easy to be a bad person. Very easy. You just say one word and you are bad. But it's not easy to be a good person at all the time. By love, that the message of love and peace, it is part of our faith. You cannot be a good Muslim if you don't love your neighbor, you love your family, you love your wife. You have to connect with your relatives. You have to help and offer him love is not just a word you offer. Love by action, by doing things that they need, by providing them with food, with shelter, with anything that they lack.
So social democracy as practiced in the United States is something that Muslims favor.
Absolutely.
Generally. Okay. And in terms of love, who is your neighbor in Islam?
Who's my neighbor in Islam?
Yes. So if you love your neighbor, who's your neighbor in Islam?
My neighbor, my physical neighbor is my neighbor. Okay, my neighbor who lives next to me, no matter who he is my neighbor. And my neighbor also in my work, my neighbor at a mosque, my neighbor at a job that I do. Everything I do, you have to apply Islam into it.
So your neighbor is not just those within the Ummah or the community of Muslims.
No.
Your neighbor includes Christians and non-Christians,
yes.
And so what is the command of Allah toward a person like me who is a non-believer? I mean, I don't belong to any particular religious group.
My commitment to Allah, that Allah will give you the guidance. I make the prayer for Allah to show you the guidance, to open your heart and to see the truth. And there is God who controls the universe, and this God is named Allah, and He has teachings, and He has religion, and it could be Christianity, it could be the Islam, it could be the Judaism, it could be the religion that you necessarily, because this is the people, these are the religious from God, religion from God. So. And Allah in the Quran mentioned those, the people of the book, the Christian and the Jews. So there is no animosity in Islam.